No Rest for the Weekend's coverage of the Tribeca Film Festival is sponsored by Blackmagic Design, the world's highest quality products for the feature film, post and broadcast industries. Blackmagicdesign.com, and by the Tonkawa Film Festival, celebrating short films from around the world. tonkawafilmfestival.com.
Now, when this was announced that this was going to happen, did Tribeca reach out to you, or did you hear it and throttle him by the neck to get this job?
No, they reached out to me, and I was absolutely thrilled and you know, and kind of surprised. You know, I'm like, why me? You know, but it's terrific to be here, and you know, what a chance of a lifetime to get to sit down with David Cronenberg and talk to him for a few minutes and sort of quietly fanboy a little bit, because the films have meant so much to me over the years.
I'm really curious about the connection between, in Cronenberg's films, particularly Shivers, the connection between sexuality and violence. Why do you think we draw such a straight line between those two subjects?
Well, sex has always been dangerous. You know, it's a thing that it's a thing that human beings intensely want. It is the part of us that reminds us most that we are animals on the face of the earth with animal impulses. I don't think we really like that so much. We don't, and some part of us is made deeply uncomfortable by the fact that, we have these intense urges that makes us like other beasts, and so sexuality is tremendously powerful. It's overpowering, and it always comes with risk, from venereal disease, from becoming entwined with a dangerous or the wrong or a dangerous partner, from loving the wrong person and then getting, finding yourself on one end of a shotgun. And so there are all kinds of ways for this sexual impulse to lead us into peril, but we can't resist.
And what you're saying right there reminds me so much of your book, Heart-Shaped Box. When are we going to see an adaptation of that? Everything else of yours has been adapted. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, so Warner Brothers they own it outright. They paid a purchase price for it as opposed to an option. So it never comes back to me. Warner Brothers just has it. There have been at this stage something like 8 to a dozen scripts written by 8 to a dozen different script writers. There was the Neil Jordan version. There's been a whole bunch of others. Akiva Goldsman and I tried to resurrect it as like a 6-episode TV series for HBO or something. But there's a big sunk cost there. They've at this point, Warner Brothers has spent a lot of money on it, and so I think maybe never, because it would involve spending more money, and I just don't know if they want to keep chasing it. I'm a little surprised, because when I wrote it, it felt to me like a very straightforward cinematic experience. I was trying to write something like an early John Carpenter film or an early James Cameron movie. It's a road chase thriller, and I was really more under the influence of film than under the influence of other novels. So it's always been a little weird that it never happened, but them's the breaks.
Cronenberg has now become a noun to speak of horror or horrific body horror creatures.
Sure.
Do you hope that there will come a time when Hill will become a noun in the horror pantheon?
Oh, I don't know. I did hear recently that there was a rock band called David Cronenberg's Wife, which I love. So that would be cool. Someone could do a band that's like Joe Hill's Sweater. That would be fun. I'd like that. But I don't know. One-of-a-kind visionaries like David Cronenberg don't come along very often, and so I think that thing where you become, you're a term. That's a lot to hope for. I'm pretty happy with the career I've got, and it's terrific to be able to come out here and celebrate David Cronenberg's career.
What is your involvement with the Black Phone 2?
So I pitched an idea because I thought there was something in the first film that they had left a trap door into a second story in the first film, that there was a couple lines of dialogue, and when I saw it in the film, I thought, oh, that's where you go with the second picture. And so I pitched it to him, and Cargill and Scott loved it and thought it was fun, and then it kind of was like what we did with the first film, where, I had sort of given a concept Scott had some autobiographical stuff he wanted to explore, and Cargill, his co-screenwriter, figured out how to engineer the sort of thriller parts of the story. So, hopefully people like it. I haven't seen the film yet, but the script was tremendous, and I'm hoping to screen it soon. I'm pretty excited.
So we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Shivers. Did you ever imagine when you were making this film back in the beginning with no money that you would be here still relevant 50 years later?
Did I imagine it? Maybe. I might have thought. Once I decided that actually, I think the first couple of days on Shivers, I thought maybe I really can't do this, because the films that I had made before that were basically underground films that I shot myself with friends and so on. This was quite different. It was a professional setup, even though it was only a 2-week shoot, but I was working with the cameraman suddenly, not shooting myself and so on. And I thought, gee, maybe I can't really do this after all. But then after the first couple of days, I thought, no, I can do this. I actually like this. I'm actually good at this. So I thought, maybe I did anticipate it.
Particularly with this film and the psychosexual undertones, how do you think a film like that translates in a world today where we have different views on gender?
I think it actually translates rather well, because I've always been quite comfortable with the whole idea of gender fluidity. In the first couple of movies I made, underground feature films, stereo and crimes of the future, feature gender fluidity. I think it would be fine these days, just like Crash was my movie Crash was considered just a radical, horrible, deranged movie. One critic said it was beyond the bounds of depravity. And then we showed it recently at the Cannes Film Festival to a very young audience, and it was like, hey, no problem. They all stayed for a Q&A. They were happy to talk about it. It wasn't shocking to them at all. So I think, if you live long enough, these things sort of settle in, and people begin to understand what maybe they didn't understand when the movie was first released.
So the body horror creature has now been nowned as a Cronenberg. A lot of these visuals, are they of your own creation, or do you let the effects department handle that?
Oh, no, the special effects people are there to serve you and the script. It's the script that is the director. And I wrote the script, so I was directing it twice, once as a screenwriter and once as a director. But it's always a collaboration. Sometimes the things you've written are not possible to do given your budget, so you have to deal with that. Sometimes you have special effects people who have some great, ideas for details and stuff that you might not have thought of. So you really, as a director, you really surround yourself with the best people possible on every level, because there's so many things you have to do as a director, and usually you're not good at every one of them. You might be good with costumes, but not with dialogue, or you might be good with lighting, but not with costumes. So you get people who are good at it to fill in the things that you're not good at.
This is the BTRP Media Network.